do its thing.
All right, we should be live.
Let's see. What do I do to see us on there? Let's see. I'm on the page. Do I have to click on anything once I'm on the page?
Yeah, so if you just refresh that channel.
It should do it. I'm just getting a blank page.
I clicked on the home button and then it appeared. So like when you click on the link and then you click on, like it should be the page for the YouTube page.
Yeah.
The home button right there and it should pop back up.
Great. Let's see, I'm gonna try that right now. Let's do it this way. What I'm going to do, I'm going to open it. I feel like my problem may be that I'm trying to open it with my Safari. My Safari never works. So let me just open it with my other browser. And much happier. There we are. So for some reason, my Safari link didn't work, but now I'm on there. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Q&A. Now I can see everything. All right, my name is Jeff Marslet. I'm going to open it. I feel like my problem may be that I'm trying to open it with my Safari. My Safari never works. I guess you guys can hear that delay happening, right?
And make sure you...
You have to mute the YouTube video.
And much happier. There we are. Okay, I'm muting that one. Great. All right, welcome everyone. I guess it means there's probably about a little 10-second delay. But we are here in our various virtual spots, and we've just come out of the virtual theater where the screening, I think, went very, very well. So I want to welcome anyone who's watching to this. We can't see you, though you can see us. So over here on the right of your YouTube Live, there's a thing at the bottom where you can type and you can say hello, like I'm going to do right now. And it'll show up. And then Aaron and I, at least, and anyone else who has this open, can see your questions. So if you want to say congratulations or a round of applause for the wonderful filmmakers here, now's a great time to do it. Jump on that little text box at the bottom and tell them nice things, and we'll look for it, and we'll know that you are out there with us. Welcome, Jill. I just saw you appear in our boxes as well. Let's see if I can set up my screen. So now, danger doing this on a laptop. Okay, so maybe we'll have a few people start to chime in questions. I'm going to start with some questions for you all, and then we will keep an eye on the right-hand side of my screen, and I will keep asking you questions that people write in from the virtual audience. A little bit repeat for everybody who's just tuning in to the Q&A. Congratulations, class. You guys really overcame a remarkably challenging semester. These are projects that you started with David back in the fall, and now you got into post. Everybody got up and running, and then we all had to go home and go into quarantine. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your hard work and how impressed I am with these final projects that you all delivered. So congratulations, thank you, and really, really impressive work. I had a great time watching those. I'm going to start a question just to get everybody warmed up, and we'll just go down the list here. But one of the things that I'm so impressed with is that not only did you all finish your films, but you took the time to try to take the film from good to really impressive by going back and saying, fine, the film's watchable, it's here, but I want to do the extra work to really polish this. Do each of you have a single moment in your film that through the process of post-production, through the process of making it, really changed the movie for you, where it caused you to take a step back and look at it and really see your film as its own creation and beyond just the thing you were working on? I'll let any of you jump in that has a good answer of a moment where the film maybe went from, is this ever going to work, to something you could sit back and really enjoy watching. You guys feel free to unmute yourself and jump in.
I guess for me it was when I decided to reorder the whole film. I mean, one major change was, hey, I had to rewrite the whole script in general, which, I mean, that made it better. And then, yeah, in the post-production process, though, it was really hard to try and shorten it down. So, I mean, figuring out that this one scene just fit better in front of everything else, it changed the whole vibe of the film. And it made it go from, oh, it's lagging behind a little bit to, oh, I could watch this.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations. I remember early this semester, you were like, well, I don't have my actor. This isn't finished shooting. What am I going to do? And now I watch your film and I forget that that version of the film even existed. This just feels like the movie. So
Yeah, me too. I almost forgot.
excellent job. Let me tell you guys all, by the way, Andy Lynn and Danny Baker and Eliza Wister have all wished you guys well and congratulated you on the screening over here in YouTube world. So thank you guys. Anyone else who had a moment where their film really changed, really became something new to them?
So for me, my moment was, so for largely my film was improvised, so I really had no kind of structure in it whatsoever. So I first showed it to Jeff and he was just like, this film is much creepier than you think it is. And that was the first time where I was like, oh, it might actually be a movie. I should make it. Instead of just like, this is like a combination of a bunch of different clips thrown together and I don't really know what to do with it. I was like a little overwhelmed, but he was like, oh, this is a terrifying movie. I was like, oh, I'd never thought of it that way.
I think you really did make a very scary movie. And I mean, today's Mother's Day. So that strange moment at the very beginning when yours plays and you're like, sorry, little Bob, I'm going to kill you. I think your movie's a little bit scary. But I'm so glad that I was able to watch it with sort of these fresh eyes of not seeing you make it along the way and not see it till it came in at that moment, because I think it was a creepier movie. And you know, by the introductions of the sister character going to San Diego, you know, like this, like, what is that? What is this place? It's this like scariness. I think you did a very good job. So congratulations. And congratulations on, I have a question for you. How did you, I mean, I know some of the answer, but this is just for Q&A's purposes, and because I think it's interesting. How did you come to the conclusion, decide on the aesthetic that's sort of this out of sync aesthetic of these characters talking in your world?
Well, the idea was kind of that a lot of their play is unconscious, and like a lot of times when children play, like they don't know what they're saying, they don't care what they're saying. That's not what's important. What's important is like the tactile things around them that they're using to play, and like how they're making the tone of what they're saying. So like, for example, they're like, oh, it's so innocent, like there's dragons, but at the same time they're like, do fairies die in the winter? So it's like these like very opposing like moral structures, I guess, that are fighting each other. And so for me, like, because it was so improvised and I really just wanted it to be like children's playtime, like I just let the kids like run wild and say whatever they want and like act however they wanted. So none of it was in sync when I shot it. And I didn't really think that mattered, because to me it was about like the surrealism of how children play rather than like what they were saying.
Well, I think you did a great job. I really do think that came through. And I think the sort of bleakness of winter added to that, like just right across the board. And, you know, with the little spark, the little tiny moments of the flower, the little tiny moments of color, the little tiny moments of the dress. It was very good.
Thank you.
Very, very nice visual design. Let me give a few more. It looks like for those of you, Keith Haviland and Richard Balstead and Hannah Mariah have all wished you guys well as well over here. And Ernesto used this device, so he sent me a text message to congratulate all of you. So he said he wasn't able to figure out how to do it in this format, but Ernesto is out there watching and enjoying it as well. So congratulations from him too. I'll keep being a conduit for whatever ways people can communicate their congratulations to you all. Keep sending them through. Let me also introduce, up in our upper left-hand corner, we have Aaron from the tech staff, who's there next to me. And beyond helping coordinate our projection, our virtual projection, he also did the score for a number of these. How many of you had Aaron work on your scores for these projects? Look at you. Okay, Sarah, you haven't gotten to speak at our wonderful Q&A. How was developing your score for this project?
It was a lot of fun. My movie is very music based, so I had him write something for me so that I had inspiration for when I was shooting. And then after I shot, I had him adapt what he had written to the material that I had gotten. So it was a really fun collaborative process, and I'm really happy with the end result.
I think it was wonderful. Um, again, major congratulations to you, and in particular, Sarah. You have always, the entire semester, you've been running out ahead of everybody. You've got a great work ethic. You've really kept this movie moving forward. The finished, polished project looks great, and I think you incorporated the score so well. It really drives the emotions. My compliments to both you and Aaron. For me, that whole section after she falls through the darkness and then wakes up by those bones, the score is complimenting it. The world is complimenting it. It's a very evocative moment. And then the whole thing shifts from this unwelcoming, combative feeling of the city to everyone coming out in those yellow and red dresses. It's a very nice moment where you brought all the visuals and the sound together. I think it worked very well. So congratulations, you two.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of it. It looks like we might have from Andrew has a theory. Louisa and Alex movies are connected, where Louisa's character was the same in both. She dies in Alex's movie after she moved to Cali, and the two sisters are imagining her in the end. So it's not really a question, but I like it. So maybe that's two different versions of Louisa's character. I like it. I like it a lot. Good, very good one. Yeah. All right, do any of you have questions for each other? And I'm gonna keep watching for questions on here. I've got plenty I can ask, but I'm gonna throw it to you guys as well. Destin.
All right, Anna, you got to tell me a little bit more about the eggs, because it made me feel so many types of ways. I do not know how to describe it. And like, I don't know what happened, but it felt so weird. Like, I don't know, just tell me more about it.
I don't know. I was just feeling extremely frustrated because it wasn't the film it was supposed to be at all. And I was talking with Jeff about it, and at first he said just film anything, so I did that. And I didn't end up using any of that in the film, but it started stirring the juices for what to do with the film. And this whole time I had this big fear of breaking the eggs, and I didn't want the eggs to break. And finally I was like, nope, we're breaking the eggs. It's time. Like, I'm so frustrated. It's just time to break these eggs and break the film it was supposed to be. So it was really me just like, I don't know, feeling out how much I was frustrated with my own film, I think.
Yeah, the film really talked to you there. And I mean, like, the frustration, it came to me too, because I was frustrated when the egg was empty when you crushed it. Like, you threw it and then it slaps on the ground and you're like, oh, okay. It was really good. It was fun.
I know you guys mentioned to me that you wanted to see the egg break when it hit the pond, so I'm glad that you liked it.
It was great. Last week when we were talking about the edit, that was my feeling too. I was like, when the eggs finally get out of the house and they're outside and he throws it, just come back to that breaking egg. Just come back to that breaking egg. Everybody's been feeling it. And seeing you in your footage when you shared it with me, it was so great to see her smashing those eggs. And so, I mean, you started this journey hoping that the eggs would talk to you about the film. And I think you found that, they did. So I'm still sad the turtle wasn't in there, not because the turtle belonged in this film anymore, but I just like the turtle.
He'll show up in another film.
That's great. Hopefully the turtle got to sit and watch some of these films.
He watched me in it all the time. His tank is right behind my desk.
I love it. I love it. More questions from you guys for each other.
I have a question for Destin. Who did your score? And I think you said you sent your film over to someone for sound design as well.
So I had Cole Hemstreet do my composition. He's a TAM student who came to the film office one day. He was like, hey, I want to look up for some projects to work on. And I snagged him really quickly. He did a great job. I'm really happy to be working with him. And then sound designer was Evan Sheely. I can give you his contact if you want. He's kind of freelance. He just does his own thing. I don't even think he does film right now, but he's a great sound editor, and yeah, I can definitely slide you over his contact.
Please do. Thank you. Your sound was amazing, like humbling.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I worked really hard on that with him. Like we sent back 6 or 7 different drafts, and every time I would hear like one little pop, I'm like, nah, send it back. Let's do it again.
I mean, that's what you got to do. You keep until it's really there. And like with yours today, when I watched it, was the first time I'd seen the very end all come together. You know, with her showing up and putting on the mask and everyone else being there. It was great. You know, and you reveal more of the other characters' faces. The sound complemented it perfectly. Very good. Very good job. We have another question from the universe out there from Danny. It says, quick question, Destin, the footage of the smokestacks in your film, was that actual smog or was it just steam?
Most likely a combination of the two. It was the power plants over here in Denver. So some of them are steam, some of them are like, I don't even know, but not good stuff. It looks bad, so I filmed it.
All of your choice to include so much of the, I'm assuming most of it was drone, but the drone footage, the environmental footage, I thought was a very good choice too. It really, since your film is about the environment, pulling us out of the, you know, the micro of that world and out into the universe, I think was a very good choice, since the environment was such a big part of your film. And sometimes that was full of smokestacks. Very good job. Okay, let's see, what do we got? Evan says, thank you so much. Hannah has a question for Jill. Jill, let me also, right before I read her question, it was so neat seeing into your house installation version of this film. Before you hopped on, several of us were just talking about how great the visuals were and how in spite of the fact that you had designed this project to be an installation that everyone would walk through, and you weren't able to realize that for this screening, I think you did do a great job of documenting in a way that pulled us in. It was so neat to see. Jax, was that someone mentioned how one reflection of you in the mirror, you looked so small and in this strange space, and it forces your brain to fight with that and start to notice the broken mirrors and the mirror cube and mirrors closer to the camera. So just first off, my congratulations to you for finding a way to still make it feel like an installation and not just, you know, a flat 2D film. And so you did accomplish that. So the question for you from Hannah is, your film was super dope. Just wanted to ask you to say more about the process of filming it and projecting and filming and making it.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna go outside. Sorry. Unexpected. Oh no. Okay. So yeah, it was supposed to be an installation and that couldn't happen. And so I had some fun just playing with the projectors and the mirrors, moving them around and like hanging them up. Yeah, and it was interesting to see how adding more would also change the space with the lighting. Yeah, so I don't know, I just had fun with it.
I personally really loved seeing the animation, the rotoscoping that you did, projected and reflected off the mirrors. I don't know if other people felt that, but it really popped out of the world that there's something, we're used to watching animation on a screen, on a thing like this, but as soon as that animation was bigger than life size, as soon as that animation was on the walls and mixed in with that space, for me, my eyes would go to it and find it and be like, and you had that sound, the sound design you used, that like kind of noise as she was peeling away her body. It was really pretty cool to be immersed in that. It did make me feel what it would feel, or at least some version of what it would feel like to be standing in that room looking at it. And then it made me meta think. I started being like, I would go back to how you introduced it, where you said, you know, I started this to show everyone my nightmare, and now quarantine's happened, I'm stuck in it. And then as I watched those, that concept, and then thinking about the fact that you were actually installing your nightmare in your house, started to play in my brain. So hopefully that was some of the things you were trying to do, was start these riffs and just see where they went. And I think that Hannah was right. It was super dope. So I was enjoying it quite a bit. Is that still set up, I'm assuming, in your house, or have you taken it down? Am I frozen? I don't know. I can't tell if people are hearing me. Can you still hear me, Jill?
I'm hearing you.
Jill might have lost us. If you come back, Jill, or if you hear me, let us know if it's still installed in your house. I was just curious. I think you're still muted. There you are.
Yes, it is still installed in my house, and yeah, so it's here.
You get to
It
keep
was
your nightmare
actually,
with you.
it was so horrible, honestly, because like I could only like work on it for like 20 minutes at a time before I'm like, I'm gonna have a seizure if I like am in this room any longer. Like I need to take an hour break. It was a lot.
It reads. That feeling reads. So congratulations on installing your nightmare in your bedroom. So, but it looks great. And thank you, tech staff, if you're watching, for helping make the projectors possible for this remote version of that. So very good. Okay, next question I've got here is from, okay, so now we've got Evan saying, it was a lot of fun working on this project and recording job. Thank you so much for including me. So there's another shout out. Keith says, Destin, will there be a sequel?
No. I only make one movie. That's it.
You need to take a breather. You at least got to take the little time off before you make a sequel to this thing. But it was great. Very good job. And Keith says agreed. So I'm assuming he's agreeing with maybe not himself, but something else there. And Hannah says 99 with several exclamation marks after it. And Danny has a question for Lane. Great job with the trimming down of the film, but I was curious about Rocco and Katrina Toussaint. Are they also members of your family? Are they cousins?
They are siblings. Yes. And so all of my family got to work on this film. So it's super cool to have everybody kind of play a different role. And it's funny. We all watched it the other day and everyone got to see themselves on the big screen. So it was pretty cool.
Did they enjoy getting to see it come to life?
Yeah, I think so, because by the end of it, both of my cousins wanted to kill me probably because we filmed in such cold conditions.
You know, I've gotten to see this in many versions, and it is great to see how much both the combination of adding the score and just even small differences you made in your edit to really take it. You know, it's hard when you're working with lots of dialogue, lots of people, and you haven't finished it. You can watch it and performances don't feel as exciting as they do when the entire film comes in. This is true of, you know, this is true of an Avengers movie. This is true of a student film. And it was really neat to watch it today and just get pulled into sort of that fantasy world and get to see these characters not as maybe your family. And probably that's always a tiny bit harder for you because you're like, these are my family, I know them. But it was neat for me to stop thinking about them as this might be her family and instead think of them as these characters. And they did a great job. There's some moments, I mean, one particular scene, you know, that I know you worked on, did things, but whenever he comes out and sees the witches and the sounds are happening, she stops the singing. The full realization of that sound design was really nice, and camera's kind of behind him and he sits up. There's some really nice moments where, at least for me, I forget that these, you know, will be, oh, this is my brother, or this is whoever I can get to do this, and they just become those characters. So great job of making that. Your color correction, your sound design, making that whole world.
Oh yeah, I've at least watched it about 50 times now. So I did a different element every time, but I'm really thrilled with all of the edits you and I talked about, and I think cutting certain things down really made a big difference in the end. So I'm really happy that we did that.
I think you did a very nice job. It was
Thank
very
you.
fun to see that. All right, more questions for you for each other, and I'll keep watching I'll watch the side for the other questions. I've got a couple others. Oh wait, it looks
This
like
is I have a question for Alec. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so I remember seeing in your early edits that car scene, and with the way you put it together, I was super impressed. Especially that last part where one of the tiny screens among the big screen gets up and you really feel like you're being immersed into this next moment in a more physical than visual way. I felt like I was being physically manipulated. What was your thought process in getting to that moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like the whole, I think, kind of point of the scene was to kind of draw you into kind of this headspace of kind of like going back through all these things that you're remembering and thinking of and kind of being overwhelmed by that. And so kind of the first few cuts of that was just kind of fading out of that, and these things kind of fading away again. Um, and it just kind of felt very kind of unfulfilling. And so Jeff and I were kind of talking about kind of like what's some other ways, like how kind of do these things kind of like feel to us, and kind of talking about like maybe these things kind of have some sort of depth to them and stuff like that. And so just kind of playing with these different kind of memories and things on different kind of planes and kind of moving through those spaces and stuff like that. So that was kind of the idea there, and just kind of like we kind of start with all these memories kind of looking like they're the same, and then we actually they have different layers and all this kind of stuff that we actually get to travel through a little bit.
It was very effective. I'm really impressed with your final composition on it, and I think that pulling into that last one and transitioning then to the parking lot, it completely worked. I mean, at least for me, I didn't feel, the worry that as one scene that has special effects, will it feel like incongruous? And I think Jack's really nailed it. Instead, it just pulled you right into that next moment. And since we've also been talking about sound design, that great moment where right before the release, where the character screams, is really nice. All the voices, all the memories coming together on the mountain there. Very, very good. Again, very good final polish out in sound design. Really makes your visuals work in a great way. So there's another question for you from Hannah. It says a couple of questions actually. What was it like directing and acting in the film? Was it difficult to do both? Because it seemed like a very personal and emotional film, and I felt the buildup of emotions.
Yeah, it definitely was difficult. It was definitely hard not being able to just kind of stand back and see exactly what was kind of going on, while like the scenes were being shot, when like you're just kind of in the center of it. And like I think when you're acting in it, you kind of have a feeling like, oh, that wasn't good, that was a really good one, or something like that. And not being able to see that from an outside perspective was really tough.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a big thing for me it was just kind of like trying to trust the people that I had around me, like trusting my directors of photography, so Jill and Andrew and Jesse, and just kind of listening to them and what they had to say, and just kind of trust that they know what they were doing, and they absolutely did. And just kind of letting them say, like, I like trying to communicate with them and saying like, this is what I'm trying to find, and this is what I'm looking for, and just trusting them to say like that we got what you were trying to go for.
Yeah.
And then just kind of move forward with that. So it was difficult for sure. Especially like you said, it was very personal, and so I had a very kind of specific emotion that I wanted to kind of push forward, and so it was difficult to let other people kind of tell me if I had gotten that, but I had awesome people around me, so it made it a lot easier.
Well, I think obviously we're getting the question. It did read. You managed to put that out there in a very good way. This is interesting. I was going. This is next on my questions when I was going to ask a question, was actually about sort of recruiting for Ivan and Jax. It looks like you used a lot of the same team for your stunt fighting and crew on that. That turned out very well. And over here on the right, lo and behold, from Danny, Ivan, how come you and Jax haven't teamed up to make a high stakes action film yet? You both got fight choreography nailed down in your films. So let's just broaden that question to just saying, where did you guys use a lot of the same team? How did you find them, and how was it working on fight sequences for your projects?
Yeah, there is a Denver stunt team, and they do martial arts and basically a kung fu action team in Denver, and a lot of them are also just regular actors as well. So we both contacted them, and we had been in contact with each other while we were casting to help each other find these people. And it was great working with them. They really knew what they were doing. And for me, I choreographed all of the fights myself. And even though they weren't the ones choreographing it, they learned all the moves. I taught them really easily. it was a great time. It was so cool to be able to work with actual stunt actors. And the reason why Ivan and I haven't teamed up yet, I think, is because this is both our first time doing a big high stakes action movie. But yeah, I would love to work with Ivan in the future.
Yeah, I think you guys could make some really fun stuff together on that. And it looks like Ivan hopefully he's dealing with a couple technical issues. There was a little chat on the side for viewers at home. He's going to try to jump back in with us in a second. I think he's having a connection issue. But both of his, like just watching Ivan's day, the addition of the muzzle flashes, the gun hits, the addition of sound effects. Well, I'll let you take this also, Jax. How did your fight choreography change, and how did it evolve as a film once you had to edit fight choreography for the screen?
In editing, the biggest problem that I had was just the amount of decisions that I had to make. Like, does it look cooler at this angle, or does it, look better at this angle? I competed in kickboxing for many years myself, and there were certain points where I, as a fighter, would be looking at it thinking like, oh, this looks the best, this looks the coolest. Then I'd show it to someone and they're like, oh, that doesn't really, I think you could use another cut there. That doesn't really look like a real hit, or it doesn't look like an action movie. So then, going back and putting it together again and just making it much quicker. And it was showing other people really that made the biggest difference.
And Ivan, you could hear us still talking so jump into how was the experience for you, and how was translating it from shooting it to editing it to presenting it with sound and effects?
Yeah, sorry, my phone lost connection to my computer, so I switched to my laptop. But anyway, it was crazy. I put out a casting call on Facebook, and I got a reply from Gary Choi, who is a local Denver-based stunt coordinator, and he has a whole stunt team, many of whom also auditioned for Jax's film. So we ended up having a lot of the same stunt actors. For the fight choreography, I kind of took the approach of deferring to people that I know were better at it than me. Initially, my action scene was planned to be mostly just guns, because that's what I know. Because I was in the military and everything. That's what I know how to do, and I wasn't gonna go too much into the martial arts stuff. But then Gary said, "I'll work on your film for free. I'll help you, choreograph your fight scenes and everything." So I was like, okay, I'll let you do that. And then just editing it all together. Your question earlier, you said like at what point did we see our films as being different than they were, and that really was the point of trying to get the fight scene from looking like shit to looking like something that could be in film. There's a lot of cutting and sound and stuff.
There was a great moment when he's going down the hall, and I'll call him the big bad guy, when the final bad guy's coming. It's cut very well. It's very, it's a real seamless sequence that really does jump off the screen and pulls you in. While we're just talking about your editing too, I also was compliment you. There's a nice moment that I'm sure lots of people notice. Great use of editing tricks when the devil turns back and forth from man to woman. In both directions. It's a good moment, good use of audio, good use of the film trick, good use of performers. So, nice taking your project from raw footage to, these finished moments where you're creating a reality that didn't really exist. And it's very good.
Ivan, I have one last question for you. So, as you can see, I have yet to put together the couple of gunshot animations in there. Was that probably the hardest part of editing for you? Not really, actually.
I was telling Jeff about this, actually. The VFX part was kind of like, it's kind of like a trance when you're doing it, because you don't have to think too much about whether you have to put a gunshot here or not. If there's a gunshot, you just put a gunshot in. And it's kind of fun, actually, to do the VFX, because you can just put on some music and just just work on it. But then the hardest part, I think, for me was the sound mix, because like I was talking a lot in the class about finding a sound mixer and everything, but I decided to do it all myself, and I had to go and learn it all from scratch. So that was the harder part, I think. I think the gunshots were more straightforward.
Well, good job on the sound too. And one of the things is we end up locked up at home, you end up with time to do some of that. But I think it was very effective. Just to segue a little bit on effects, Josh, your film was driven so much by the aesthetic of jumping around through these different film universes. How did you come up with those? And I think I got 2 more questions or 3 more questions I'm going to read from the other, but I'll jump to the last of those first, which is, Josh, how did you come up with your ending? Because I know your ending also evolved because of quarantine. So I'm going to let you talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was funny. I didn't answer your question earlier about at what point it felt like it changed, because like this film has radically changed from what I originally thought it was at every step along the way. The ending, especially the way that I had originally scripted it, was almost almost like a classic hero's journey, where like the moment, looking at the kind of montage of film history, is like the low point of like, hey, you suck a little bit, and then it allowed him to kind of redeem from that. But partly because we couldn't shoot the last scene, which is a shame because it was extravagant. I looked at it as, I mean, I had, I kind of, the film was kind of metaphorically and physically in tatters a bit. So it felt like ripping apart the film at the end was the natural thing to kind of come out of it.
I mean, I think it's interesting because it's not the ending that I was like, wait, that wasn't. I thought something else was going to happen, and it's fun. But I think it works, and I think again, you did a little bit of something similar to what Anna was doing, and you said, I'm going to respond to where we're at and this piece, because your original set piece was with the trees, right? We're going to be in that final sequence. Do you have any plans to revisit it, to try to shoot that last piece, or how do you feel?
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot lately, actually, because this, for anybody who doesn't know, this is my girlfriend Amethyst, who is kind of my producing partner for this project. She was kind of the lead on that set, and we have been talking about doing some other things with that set, but I feel like at this point, Dr. Sprocket has kind of taken its full shape and it's done, and going back and trying to change it back to what I used to want it to be isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think you did, and and effects-wise, it looked great too. I loved your various everything you did with the tactile and the aesthetics that you were creating. I thought were very effective as we moved through it. So, congratulations. Now we have a question. From Eliza, why did Ava decide to do a documentary instead of telling a fictional story? So, what made you choose this particular topic? This documentary, and then I have a couple follow-ups for that, but I'll start it there.
Okay. I don't know. I've kind of, since all of you have watched it, you've seen that I've kind of grown up in a unique community, and coming to college out of that really small community, I haven't really met anyone with the same kind of values or views on life and love. So I don't know, ever since 3400, which was my junior year, I've kind of just been on this quest to define love as my community defines it, but plus how I see it. So it's just kind of the culmination of that quest that I've been on for a while. So yeah.
Well, I really, I first off, congratulations too on getting it shorter. One of my, as someone helping you through post-production and making short films, one of my goals walking into the beginning of the semester is like, look, let's take at least 10 minutes off of everybody's projects. And you took 25 minutes off of your project. But I think you actually did your project a huge plus by doing that, in the sense that how did you go about, you sort of took, when we watched the early cuts, it was about love in this more expansive way. And I found this really interesting thing watching today, that you made it less about the specific people and got closer to just being about the concept of love. And you also had this neat through line of the way travel played into love that really, I think, helped drive your narrative. How did you go about deciding which elements to keep, which elements to take out, and shaping that final narrative?
Yeah, well, you were kind of talking earlier about at what point did the making of our films change for us. And I think quarantine was a really big factor in that for me, and making it shorter because, yeah, before going home, I went home for about a month. But before going home, it was just I was kind of lost in the story. I had so much footage. I had about 7.5 hours of footage. So it was just kind of like trying to boil that down and also find the story that I wanted to tell within all that footage. And I found myself trying to tell more of a life story than a love story, which wasn't what I was trying to do. So I just, picked out all the things that they said about love specifically and put that in the film. And then I used the B-roll or the images over the interviews to kind of tell the life story, but the words tell the love story.
Yeah, I think it works. And speaking of the, the environmental footage, I've told you this before, but that your final drive down the hill to the house is a great moment, letting us just be in that space at the end too. So
thank you.
And I think it even goes along with, there's so much about road trips and travel and the way all these relationships developed on those, that of course a little tiny road trip at the end was a great way to finish it. So good job on that. Okay, a couple more questions over here. We've got a real quick one here for Lane. How did you get your location?
I went to Bishop's Castle is about like
Bishop's Castle.
It's about like I'd say maybe an hour away from my hometown of Pueblo, and all my family and friends kind of have been there, and I just loved the location, and I loved how unusual it was, and I think that was really a big part of the story I was trying to tell, was this kind of topsy-turvy world where nothing was quite straight, nothing was kind of what it seemed, and I think the castle really portrayed that, and I'm really happy we shot there.
It looks great. I know what it is, so like I can see it, but like especially someone who's watching this who's not living here in Colorado, your castle is totally adds to that fantasy world you've created, because it's coming up out of the trees and all those walking through the tunnel's not the right word, but I guess sort of tunnel, but all those covered archways. It's great. Yeah,
I think
good job with that. Which gave you some sound issues though, right? That choice of location.
That was the downfall of kind of shooting there. It was the perfect location for the film, but the downside was that they don't let you like close off any areas, so there were always people. So I had it was like one really rough day, like where there was just so many people, and working around that, and the sound design was extremely difficult, but I think it's where it's all right at the moment.
Yeah, I think, and again, we've said it a few times, but seeing the praises of that final step of sound design, you did a great job of incorporating that and building those footsteps and building these pieces so that it didn't jump out as being a problem spot. So,
yeah, sound was a big part for me in that. I wanted to make that the highlight of the film, so I'm happy it translated.
I think it really did. We've got another question from Hannah here for Sarah. How did you film the falling scene, and was the main character being transported into another realm where the muses exist, or was it all in her imagination? So two-parter.
Yeah, so for the first part, I shot it in a room with black walls and a black floor, and we had her like perched on the edge of a mattress and just kind of like waving her arms around. And then I played with the image in editing to make it look like she was falling and to key out the background and all that stuff. And then we also, for the overhead shot, we had the camera up on a ladder pointed down at her, just lying flat on her back. And I'm really, really pleased with how that worked. I wasn't sure it was going to, but it did.
So it looks so effective.
Thanks. For the second part, I purposely would like that to be left to interpretation. I remember when we were shooting, I specifically said out loud, like, well, maybe this isn't even real. And some of my muses were like, what do you mean we're not real? And I was like, well, okay, you're real if you want to be real. Like, it's up to the viewer.
Very, very good job. You know, great transition to those world. And I'm gonna not even spoil it. I'm gonna tell you not even to answer it right now. But the bones, great. You know, that moment too just gives you such a striking image. So you guys will have to find her in person and ask her about the bones. So I think it's a good secret answer for things. It's fabulous. Okay, what else do I have here? I also have from Vivian, Destin, I'm so proud of you. I loved it. Congratulations. So there's another congratulations. From Melanie, I really loved, I really loved, I'm gonna take out the second I, the message in Truly Noble Souls. So there's another one. And from Vivian, how did you come up with the inspiration for the project during this hard times we are going through right now, which I think is still for you, Destin?
The big message of the film is just we need to really work together to save the environment. Everything that's been going on lately is just getting worse and worse every day. And I mean, thankfully, it's just weird to say, but COVID really has helped turn the tides on that a little bit, which is strange. So it's weird kind of releasing this film at this time, but you know, it's just all about the environment. We got to work together to really make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, the timing of these, that's something that's a bigger question I won't even ask in here, but the timing of just how your project looks different when the entire world changes halfway through your project. I mean, I think Jill's sort of hit that head on because the project had to just be something different. But, you know, so did Anna, so did a lot of these. They, you know, suddenly the world is a different place than you were creating these in. And I think yours, how someone understands it really falls into that. We do hear from Christina. Anna, what determined the order of the way each egg was cooked?
Well, again, my eggs were never supposed to be cooked, so that was kind of something that had to be fleshed out fairly quickly during quarantine. But really, the only real way to cook an egg in there is the fried egg, and the sort of omelet. It's more like a very poorly scrambled egg that's just way overcooked. It's just not any way that anyone would eat an egg. Like, you don't half scramble an egg and then let it completely burn and then eat it. So I guess it was just my way of continuing to break the eggs down and just continue to cook them in ways that nobody would be able to use them afterwards. So
I really felt that. I love that when you overcooked that one, that it is, again, it's just like the break. It's real visceral. Yeah. the egg destroyer there. From Danny, Sarah, your film felt like a cross between that one episode of Samurai Jack and Midsummer in how it presented itself. Good stuff. So there's another compliment for you. And congratulations, everyone. Great job from Sarah's mom, AKA Craft Services. So I love it. I love being this conduit of people that you all know, making comments and asking questions that are coming from people I can't see and don't know, but I just get to be their voices. This is pretty fun. From Vivian, for everyone, what was the hardest part of filmmaking and how did you manage that challenge? This is a good one. So it's about 7:02. I know everyone has places they would go. I was going to take this about 7:15. So if at home, if you have any burning questions, type them up while they're answering this because we'll wrap up about 7:15. But for all of you, what was the hardest part and how did you manage it? You want to go first? Ava, I'll just go across I'll let you start it. What was the hardest part and how did you manage it?
I mean, like I said, the hardest part was just cutting down all the footage. And, you know, because as a filmmaker, you get really attached to some of your footage and you're like, I have to put this in there. But if it doesn't fit with the story you're trying to tell, then you have to cut it and it's hard. So that's probably the hardest part for me.
It's always, it never gets easier.
Yeah.
Alec, how about you? What was your hardest part in this project?
I think for sure shooting up in the mountains on at a ski resort in the snow was a pain and was something I was worried about kind of throughout the whole thing leading up to it, and created a bunch of issues with like recording audio and stuff like that. So that was, I think, one of the tougher things, but I had a great cinematographer to ease that process. So, and a good crew as well. So,
and it paid off. You got, those visuals made it, I think, really worthwhile. So very good. Lane, how about you? What was your toughest part in making this film?
It's hard to toss up. I would say mostly it was the editing, trying to cut on the sound design, particularly trying to decide like levels and how to make certain things pop more than others. It's either that or just filming in the castle that was particularly difficult, and the cold.
How hard was getting relatives to do what you say when you want them to do it?
Well, Rocco, my lead actor, he's my cousin, he did an amazing job. So if he's watching this, I'd like him to know that. But it was a little hard working with family, just like more in the crew side, than more not necessarily my actors, but my crew, because they were also my family. So it was more of that. The actors were all very great.
Well, my congratulations, not just to you, but to them. The performances are really a lot of fun. The makeup is fun. The world you created. So good job roping them all in, or good job to them for just being agreeable people. But it really worked out well. So very good job.
Thank you, Jeff.
Destin, hardest thing?
That's hard to say, because this has been a ride for sure. But I would say I've spent so much time in the writing process. I had 9 drafts before I was even happy with it, and then I had to rewrite it. So it was just a lot of going back and forth and just really trying to work out the ins and outs of how the script is going to feel.
Yeah, I mean, I guess following you through part of this journey, if you'd asked me what was Destin's hardest part, I feel like it was you sitting in that classroom being like, I don't know what my film is anymore. But you did it. You swerved the car down the road, you made it, and it worked. So
absolutely, it all worked out really strangely, but I'm really thankful for how it all turned out.
And for everyone watching home, that's one of the benefits of having people around you that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can show. Because I think the whole class was like, well, what if you did this? What if you did that? And I think it worked. I mean, you were open to those ideas. You listened. You incorporated some of them and came up with some of your own and made something. So very good job. Sarah, what was the hardest part about making this thing?
I would say probably also the editing, just because editing is really not my thing. So sort of trying to put it all together and make it match with the music. Oh no, the special effects were the hardest because I'm not good at them. I needed a lot of help with that, but I got it figured out, and luckily it was only like 3 or 4 shots. So
and you did well. I mean, I think one day I went into the editing room and you were doing the fall, and I was like, just do this and this, and you're not giving yourself enough credit. I mean, you really did jump in very quickly and make those things look very nice. So you also deserve a compliment that you did a good job on those. So
well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Louisa, hardest part about making yours?
I gotta say, definitely the audio, because the downfall of improvising most of your script is that it was a really windy day, and I really didn't give my sound person any direction at all. I was like, keep the mic on them at all times, make sure everything they say is recorded. So a lot of it had a lot of wind behind it, and I had to learn how to fix that in the audio design. So I'm willing to say the audio is definitely the hardest.
I also heard the actor playing the older sister hadn't really prepped her improvisation very well and ended up giving you a bunch of lines you couldn't remember. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, actually, I was the worst person. I was the worst actor on my film because I couldn't remember a single line. So Jeff was like, oh, why don't you just ADR what you said? And I was like, I have no idea what I said. I'm the worst actor on my film for sure.
I mean, it's funny. This goes back to the question that Alec got earlier, but it is, when you have to do both, it's very difficult. I've acted in films I'm directing as well, and it's every time you act, you're kind of micro directing a small character. So you're doing that, but then you have to chase the big picture. Oftentimes, one of those has to kind of suffer or fall back. And what I usually do is try to make sure, kind of like Alec did, I make sure that the crew that I've got with me is watching the big picture, and I'll just play with my character for right now and then go back and watch the footage at the end of the day and see what happened. And I feel like you fell into the trap of like, I'm still watching the big picture. I don't know what that actor said.
We were losing light at that point in the time. So I only had like maybe 2 or 3 good takes left. So really what I was thinking was like, I
Just
need
get
to
it
get
done.
this turned out really quick. Yeah.
Well, it worked great, and the way you incorporated that into the aesthetic was very good. So so all's well that ends well. But that was, I remember that moment, like, just say what you said again. Like, I don't know what I said. So it was great. Very good job. Anna, hardest part for you?
The hardest part for me was definitely having to take 90% of my footage and kind of throw it out, even though I really liked it in its own pieces. They just weren't doing together what I wanted them to. So I don't like acting in my own film, so that was hard too, to have to kind of fill in the gaps with myself of the footage that I couldn't use.
You were left with access to one actor, and it was you. So, but it worked. Good job. And again, best lesson for independent filmmaking is you finish, you find a way despite the hurdles that get thrown at you. And I think you exemplified that. So great job.
Thank
Jill,
you.
hardest part in yours?
I think the hardest part was just like compromising what I initially had planned for like the environment. Just like letting go and like being okay with it, I guess.
Yeah. I think it worked. I really think in many ways what you created to be able to put out in this format was very effective. The fact that your installation had to force itself into your very bedroom was meta successful, on top of, I think, being actually visually interesting. So again, just like with Anna, way to roll with whatever happened, and be, there's going to be a ton of films that come out this year that are reactions to COVID, and your film is, in its own way, as a reaction to what quarantine means. So very good job. Josh, what was the hardest thing about yours?
The obvious answer is probably losing the big like finale. But beyond that, just the nature of having or not having to, I chose it because I'm crazy, but shooting a narrative on film and not a lot of film. I think I only shot like one 400-foot roll per scene, which is not a lot. It was like 1 or 2 takes max for everything. So it was like it forced me to be very, very disciplined and like precise with it in a way that didn't give me the freedom to create other options that would have made this kind of plan B editing that I've had to do a little bit easier.
Yeah. Well, again, you still found a way to bring it together. So success story, and in a way, who could have predicted that a pandemic was going to strike your project? So, not having planned necessarily for that, you can't be fully faulted. It was a pretty unexpected card to be dealt on this, and good job of finding a way. And I hope at some point I'm going to get to watch and see what you do with that forest you built, because it does look cool, and I want to see that. And let me also take this moment. I love the dragon. I love that dragon you put in there. I think other people do too. It comes on there. Did you do it? You made the dragon?
Yeah, that was entirely me. I made him and we animated him together. That was a little hectic. I don't like working with clay. That's not what you're supposed to be animating stop motion stuff with. And I know this, but gotta do what you gotta do.
It's so good. I could have watched that dragon all day long. So I loved the dragon. Congratulations on making that so well. It was really fun. As soon as it came on the screen, I was like, yeah. So excellent. Ivan, hardest part about making yours?
I guess the hardest part is probably trying to make my first action movie without any money. Trying to find locations but not have money to give people, to pay people for those locations, and just trying to basically stretch my budget as much as I could while not compromising on the quality of the film. That was really hard.
I think you got good locations, and again, for me, I can be like, hey, that's the studio here at school, because I go in and I teach in that room. But you took a space that was already interesting and made it look good, and I'm sure it reads, and it's great. I actually have extra fun that I'm like, wow, it feels like I've gone to Mackey and people are getting shot in the Mackey hallways. There's some fun of knowing the spaces, but I think you did a great job transforming existing locations we have on campus into some cool spaces. So good job on it.
And I just want to give a shout out to Gurjeet and Dwayne for letting me use their locations, the bar and the house. Yeah, they really came through. If I didn't do those locations, those scenes would look terrible. But yeah,
the bar is great. And it's great. It has that great moment you end the film. I mean, the bar looks so good. So yeah.
Once it reopens, guys, you should go there.
Yeah. What's the bar so we can give them a shout out?
It's called Tandoori Grill. The bar doesn't have a name, but it's next to this restaurant called Tandoori Grill, and they're owned by the same people. So definitely go check them out.
I'll have to go eat at Tandoori Grill as well when I actually have eaten at Tandoori Grill, but I will eat there again when we're allowed to do so again. So
fantastic Indian food, really good.
Great job. And Jax, what was your hardest part, and how did you deal with it?
Hardest part for me was definitely the writing process, and some stuff came up during the film, during the production, where I thought that I was going to have to change the script. So I would spend a couple days trying to, write certain things out of it, and then it would come back together. So then I didn't have to do that. But yeah, really the writing process was crazy. Also because, the rest of the pre-production, finding locations, finding actors, was happening at the same time that I was writing it. So I wish I started writing it earlier. But yeah, that was my biggest difficulty.
Well, excellent job. Excellent job to all of you. I'm going to read a last few comments to you all and then give you my own personal thank you. But from Danny, again, for someone who was showing their film a year ago and is now working in television, I saw some fantastic potential here in all these films. From Vivian, kudos to everyone. From Keith, great job, everyone. From Danny, a bit of advice for everyone. David Fincher said it best, that almost every filmmaker makes 60 to 75% of the film they want in their head after it's done. That's totally okay. Be able to accept that. So some nice, fun advice over there. I think these played so well. I really want to, I said at the beginning, but I want to reiterate it, a big personal thank you. I wish I could give you guys handshakes and hugs right now for really giving me a great semester. It was so much fun to see where David had started you all and pick these projects up sort of partway through their lifespan and help you see them to fruition. It was a real privilege that I got, and definitely know that all of your hard work and attendance and taking projects so seriously did not go unappreciated by me, especially once we had to jump into Zoom world. And hopefully something I gave you here or there was helpful in getting across the journey, but I do know you all did the heavy lifting of making these projects. So thank you so much. Congratulations. I'm going to see a few of you more at graduation and as this goes, but please, find me on Facebook or whatever and stay in touch. I'd love to see where you guys go in your careers. I have a Facebook group for my ex-students, which you now are, to join. That's really aptly named Jeff's ex-students out there in the world. I didn't get very creative with the title, but it's a good way to just connect you all with students I've had past, so that people maybe get to work together, collaborate, and meet each other. And just know that I genuinely am very interested in seeing where you all go in the rest of your careers, because you really did some great work and you really were a great class. So thanks to you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause. And so I guess it feels weird. It feels like now we should all head over to the sink or somewhere, but we all head nowhere because we're in Zoom boxes. But we would all head to the Tandoori Grill and have a drink at the very movie bar and congratulate each other right now. But do stay in touch. Really good stuff. Any of you that want to try to refine your festival strategies, please reach out to me anytime this summer, anytime this week, anytime you want to. And I'd be very happy to help suggest specific festivals, or if you apply to one where I know someone, I'll try to put in a good word, all of those kinds of exciting things. And hopefully we'll get to see each other in person in the near future. So, and Aaron, let's give one last round of applause. Let's give a round of applause for Aaron for making this technically work. We did it. Look at that smile up there. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Anybody have anything else? Anything before? If you haven't, everybody look at the right too and see you're congratulating each other. Lane, did you have something you wanted to say, or was that a?
Do we need to email you for Grillo?
Oh yes, don't
Okay.
forget to vote. In the email I just said, just send me your first, second, and third for Grillo, and we'll add them all up. And then at least 2 of these films will play in the fall, hopefully in an actual real theater where we actually go sit down and watch them. But we will see how that goes. And as I mentioned before too, I'm going to leave. No one minds, right? You guys don't mind if I leave the films up for 2 weeks on this? Great. I'm going to leave this up for 2 weeks, so feel free to share it with other people. And by the end of 2 weeks, I'm sure all the faculty will get a chance to see it, and hopefully David as well will get to see this. So, all right. Thank you, guys. I will see you all soon.